What is going on, guys? Ryan Hammer here with Liv and Shantelle. We are here for the bracket breakdown last minute right before the tournament starts tomorrow. Well, what's up, guys? What's going on?
Oh,
Feeling good.
just sulking in Von Miller heading to the Bills. But
Liv,
that's not what
big
we're here to
market.
talk about. So I'm just going to get it off my chest right up front. Ouch, that one hurt. That was a big FU from Von Miller right to my face. It is what it is. I'm cool. Don't mind the Broncos helmet back there. We're going to pretend that doesn't exist for the show. Other than that, I'm doing great, Ryan. I'm doing great otherwise.
I knew we had to start off with a rant like that because,
Always.
and also we won't. This is not a football talk. I get it, but 6 years, like, come on now, 6
Crazy.
years.
That doesn't make any sense.
That's excessive. Come on now. That's
All right,
them just trying to hurt my feelings more, you know?
Right,
Salt in the wound.
It's attack at you personally, no one else.
For
no
real.
other fans.
They
It
knew.
is.
They knew you'd be upset about it. So that's why they're like, let's give him the 6 years.
Exactly.
But we are here for the bracket talk. Obviously, the NCAA tournament starts tomorrow, March Madness. We've been doing bracket stuff all week long. It's time for our final thoughts. We have some of the playing games done, 2 of them. Peter Kiss and Bryant against Wright State is on right now. It's actually behind me. You can see it in the corner of the screen there. And we got Rutgers Notre Dame later. So we're going to focus first, if you guys are cool with that, on the Rutgers Notre Dame game, what it means for them, what they need to do to get past in the West region, and we'll kind of flow into the West from there. So let's hear initial Rutgers Notre Dame thoughts and how we're looking.
First thoughts for me. Sorry, Shantelle. First thoughts for me because I don't really follow either one of those teams. So I'm just going to say it right off the bat. I like to fade the public, and I feel like a lot of the public is on Rutgers, so it makes me want to tail Notre Dame tonight. But other than that, I don't really have a strong opinion on this game.
Okay.
For me, I would probably say Rutgers too. I don't really think Notre Dame shouldn't even been in the play-in, to be honest with you. I know some people are taking Notre Dame, but I got to rock with Rutgers. Also, sometimes you just got to go with whoever has the better jersey. So I'm going to roll with Rutgers in that one. I know some people do some like wild picks with their brackets, but I got Rutgers winning this one. And I actually, well, we'll get to it later, but yeah, I'm rolling with Rutgers.
Speaking of wild jerseys, Wright State is wearing some kind of like really awful camo jersey. It's just gross right now. I'm not going to show off on the screen, but the Rutgers game. So it's funny, Liv, you said that. You think the public, it's actually going back and forth. Rutgers started as the favorite. Then they went to, as a 1-point favorite. They went to 1.5 underdogs, and now they're at 1-point favorites again because I think the public's going back and forth on them, and like people are going to Notre Dame now, and it'll just kind of stay around even, which I think is kind of fair. But Rutgers seems like the fan favorite pick. I would definitely agree with that. I'm on Rutgers for the record.
Well, now I'm scared.
Don't be scared. Stick with your pick. But who do you guys think? Like Alabama is like a weird team. They've been really hot and cold. I've said that they could lose in the first round. They can go to the Final Four all year long. Who do you guys think poses a bigger threat to Alabama in the round of 64?
I like Alabama a lot. They got really good guard play, and I think they got strong guard play, but I actually have them meeting Texas Tech, and I think that's where they're going to be getting into some type of trouble because Texas Tech is really good defensively. So I think their guards are going to have a little bit of trouble there, but I'm actually going to roll with Alabama for that one. I just like their guard play a lot, and I think they are the favorites, if I'm not mistaken, for that one.
Yeah, they definitely will be the favorite for sure. Liv, you got an opinion on that one?
I actually have Alabama losing to Texas Tech. I made my whole bracket with a defensive mindset. Defense wins championships, and that's just kind of how I always handicap, even in the NBA. I looked at my bracket this year from 2 perspectives. One was defensively, and second was from the free throw line. I think something that we can all relate to when it comes to betting on college basketball is missed free throws will ruin your bets 9 out of 10 times. And so I'm really liking Texas Tech to take down Alabama. Actually, I have Texas Tech moving on and then facing Duke after Alabama. So I do have Texas Tech winning that one. Again, like Shantelle said, it boils down to me for defense, and I just think defensively they're the stronger squad. So I'm rocking with Tech, which is hard for me to say because I'm a TCU girl. So
the defense.
We're gonna get to TCU though. We're gonna get to TCU in a bit. So
the defense is a good point because like there's a lot. Liv, I'm a nerd like this. Like there's a lot of historical stats that say like if you're not in the top 100 in defensive efficiency, you can't get to the Final Four, and if you're not in the top 20 defensively, I think it's 25 now. You can't win the national championship. So all those things are supported, and there's more free throws in the tournament. The games are closer because the pressure is higher and the stakes are higher. So there statistically are more free throws. And I think I also lean with like experience because even if you're like a 75% free throw shooting team, I think you can feel the pressure if your team is young. And that's why I'm staying away from teams like Arizona at times and maybe even Auburn down the stretch to an extent, just because these teams and these guys haven't been there a lot. And I think the experienced teams like Villanova will really thrive in those moments. Will they be in those moments? Who knows? But You guys want to roll through the West region? Are there any hot takes?
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have any big hot takes out of the West region that most people won't have, you think?
I have Vermont, I think, going further than a lot of people would. Again, looking at everything defensively and from the free throw line, I have them actually beating UConn and then battling it out. So I have them defeating Arkansas, taking down UConn, and then battling out against Gonzaga, and then Gonzaga actually wins that one. But I do have Vermont, I think, going further than a lot of other people probably do. So that's probably my one sleeper team in the West.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what? I actually really, really like Vermont too. This team can score. They dominated the American East, and I think they're going to cause some damage. But I actually have them losing to UConn because I'm going to roll with UConn because I really like RJ Cole. Tyrese Martin is a stud, and they're going to be taking on New Mexico State in that first round. And a lot of people have New Mexico State beating a 12 seed, beating the 5th seed, but I'm going to roll with the spread in that one. UConn's a -6.5 favorite, so 6.5 point favorite. So I'm going to roll with UConn in that one, but I do think UConn and Vermont are going to meet, and the atmosphere in that game is going to be wild. There's going to be a lot of people coming up for that game from UConn and Vermont. So yeah, Vermont's one of those sleeper ones. So I'm not even mad at that pick. Liv, if you got that one going a little bit far, I think that's a good one because this team can put up points.
Yeah, hoping so.
That's funny you mentioned New Mexico State because I am on New Mexico State. I don't know if I can't get a percentage of picks of who's on who. It'll obviously lean UConn, but it might be more than like obviously other like high seed differentiations games. But New Mexico State is notoriously, I guess not notorious, not a bad thing, but they're always a good rebounding team. And I think that's going to really smother Adama Sanogo well. And they have their two guards, Teddy Allen, who, as Dan Hurley said today, the UConn coach, he said Teddy Allen is a bucket, even though he's playing against him. And they have Serge Jabari Rice. They're two big guards. They also crash the boards really well. So I think that's really gonna cause a good matchup against UConn. I have the Aggies in this one, but I think UConn 100% can go to compete with Gonzaga in the Sweet 16. I just feel like this is a part in the bracket where I think, okay, this is 10, 20 points, basically nothing if I have Gonzaga going past whoever they meet in the Sweet 16. So I believe in New Mexico State. So I was like, I might as well take a chance here because I don't think anyone's getting past the Zags anyway. So
you know what? This is the year that – yeah, you know what? This is the year. Every year, Gonzaga is right there, and they're not able to get it done. But this year with Chet Holmgren, who people are talking about, he could be the first pick in the NBA draft this year, depending on if you like, Banchero or not from Duke. But this is a guy that's been good for them all season long. They got a lot of depth. I got to shout out Andrew Nemhard, who's Canadian like myself, and they got a lot of depth on this squad. So I think Gonzaga is going to go far this year, but it's going to be tough, man, because, it's a mental thing for them, too. They're always right there and not able to get it done. But I think this one might be their year where they go all the way to the finals for sure.
As the number one overall seed, like they got a tough draw. I'll say it straight up because like Boise State is, first of all, Leon Rice, who is the Boise State coach, was Mark Few's assistant at Gonzaga for 11 years before he got the Boise State job. And I think Memphis athletically is superior to Gonzaga, so that'll poise a really interesting matchup if they get past. So I think either of their second-round opponents will be really tough, and we already talked about UConn, even Arkansas, I think is a good dark horse team. Then they're going to have to play Duke, who they already lost this year, Texas Tech, another athletic defense. So I think for the overall one seed, it's very surprising how hard their path is to the Final Four. But
yeah, that Memphis-Boise State game, that one could go either way because Memphis is a -3 favorite in that one. But when you look at it, like they've had such a tumultuous year with Penny Hardaway and then Amani Bates gets injured and they turn it around. Like they lose their best player, they turn it around. I'm going to roll with Memphis in that one though, but honestly, it could go either way.
They've been the second best team in the country. This is a good stat. Amani Bates stopped playing on the 27th of January. Since January 28th, they've been the second most efficient team in the entire country. They've been amazing. Even though they lost the AAC final, they have been awesome. They're a popular pick. They were a bubble team a month ago, and now they jumped all the way to a single-digit seed. So they've definitely been trending in the right direction. All right, let's move down to let's go to the East. We were talking about the East before a little bit beforehand. We'll just go straight down. The East, to me, is the toughest region. I think it's got not only top-heavy teams, but it's got some of the best mid-majors and some of the better, like Murray State and San Francisco, and also some of the better high seeds like Virginia Tech. There's got to be hot takes we have in this one, right?
Oh, for sure. Should we start off with Murray State, though?
I love Murray State so much. Oh,
dude, they're playing so well offensively, and I love Tevin Brown. Like, that kid is a stud. You know how, like, in March Madness, there's always a superstar that's born?
Yeah.
Watch out for Tevin Brown because I think he's going to shine. I got Murray State actually going pretty far in my bracket, to be quite honest with you. They're kind of my Cinderella team because they're not really a Cinderella, though, because they've been balling this year. But I have them beating Kentucky and then meeting Texas and then them beating Texas as well. So I got Murray State actually going pretty far. They're my Cinderella for this season.
Love it. I have them beating San Francisco and then them beating Kentucky and then losing to Virginia Tech. So I do have them going pretty far.
Okay.
But then I have Virginia Tech taking care of business with them. So
I knew Shantelle were going to get along well. Murray State I've been saying they were a Final Four team since the beginning of 2022. I have them in my main bracket. I have them in the Elite Eight, and I almost thought about going to the Final Four. The little brother, big brother thing, Liv, we talked about this earlier today. Kentucky against Murray State. They never schedule each other in the regular season for whatever reasons they have. Loyola Chicago and Illinois had the same run-in last year in the 1 and the 8 when they were in the bottom right region. And I think it's going to be the same thing here. The little brother wins. They go on. It's just one of those upsets that, like, I think people want to take, but they can't convince themselves to take it for the most part. And I've been convinced since I saw the bracket that I was taking Murray State here. Kentucky's been trending in the wrong direction. I actually think I don't have St. Peter's winning. St. Peter's is a terrible matchup for them. They have a really good press defense. Kentucky's awful against the press defense, and St. Peter's has been one of the most efficient teams in the tournament in the last month. So I'm really looking forward to the Kentucky-St. Peter's game. I'm not even joking.
Liv said something really crazy, though, that I actually like for betting. Virginia Tech and Texas is going to be a crazy game. And I was like, which way should I go? Because Virginia Tech just won the ACC. And Texas, they were having a really good season early on. And then I think they dropped, they lost, of course, in their final game of the season. And they were struggling. I think they had 3 or 4 losses in a row. But I really like Texas still for some reason. I think Virginia Tech played their hearts out in the ACC championship. I think Texas is a -118. I'm actually rolling with Texas. I'm rolling with Texas to beat Virginia Tech. But I like Liv's pick, just for betting odds, because they had quite the tournament.
Yeah, Virginia Tech is right now, they are plus 360 to make the Sweet 16. I think the first round and even the second round against Purdue, they'll match up pretty well. I think it's the first round game that's going to be more important for them because if they win a game, people are going to be like, oh, I really should have taken them because they're still hot and they're still going. So plus 360 is not bad, and they're minus 500 for no. So obviously, if you believe in Virginia Tech, pretty good odds, I would say, to make the Sweet 16.
For sure. Yeah, I've got them in the Elite Eight. I've actually got them in the Elite Eight, and they lose to Baylor.
The Hokies losing to Baylor. Hey, you keep saying you go against the Big 12 teams, you don't like them, but you're taking all of them.
Well, I have. You know what? Listen, not Kansas. I got rid of them quick. I can't stand Kansas.
Go ask them.
Baylor can't either.
Baylor's one of those things where it's you can fight it all you want, but they're a great and very competitive team. Yeah. So I've got to set aside my bias and just accept it for what it is. So as much as I want to fight the Baylor one, you just can't. You got to just take that L, be a horned frog, use your brain, think smart, and just, So I do have Baylor coming out of the East, but they're battling between Virginia Tech. So we'll see.
Baylor's got a big injury, though, too. They didn't win the Big 12. Yeah, you know what I mean? They got a big injury, but they're way too talented. But it's something to think about because they're going to be without JTT. So, they're not going to have that big presence, that 6'8" kid from Cameroon, I believe. So I think Baylor is a team that's beatable because of that injuries.
Yeah, I think Flo Thamba is a more than sufficeable at least replacement at the big. They don't go deep. They play 7 guys, and their seventh guy plays 15 minutes a game in the last stretch of games. LJ Cryer, who's actually their leading scorer on paper, is game time decision for this week. I'm really hoping he could play. If they can get past the first weekend, it seems like he'll be able to play at least in the second weekend. So that'll be a huge addition. They'll be able to go 8 guys, but losing Jonathan Chamachachua was huge. I think Flo Thamba is good. He's not nearly as good as Chamachachua, especially as a defensive anchor in the paint. I also have Baylor coming out. They're actually the second favorite to get out at plus 260, and Kentucky is the favorite at plus 250 to get out. Basically even on those two teams, which kind of makes sense when you think about it, I guess, right?
Yeah. Honestly, though, I actually have UCLA beating Baylor. I got UCLA beating Baylor because I think they got all the experience from last year. I think Johnny Juzang is going to ball out. And I really like this UCLA team. I'm also Pac-12 biased. So yes, I know. They never get love in football, but in basketball, it's a different deal, right? So I gotta definitely roll with UCLA. I got them beating Baylor because I do think that JTT injury is going to catch up to them, and UCLA is super talented.
The one thing I'll say about that game is that matchup, I've been losing sleep over that, by the way, in the Sweet 16. I think Baylor and UCLA could both lose in the second round, but likely that they'll be in the Sweet 16. I think Miles Johnson, I watched him at Rutgers for a couple of years, and now UCLA now. They don't have a big presence, UCLA, that's like blistering, that's really going to ruin Baylor. So I think that's a plus for Baylor, but it's still going to be tough. Jaime Jaquez has been scoring like 25 a game in the last 5 games, and Juzang hasn't been good. So if Johnny can play any better than he has been, they're really, really going to be in trouble. Whoever's in front of them is going to be in trouble. UCLA's path. I do see that.
What do you guys feel about this 12-5 matchup though? Indiana and St. Mary's. You guys got an upset there because you know that like 12-5 matchup is always one of those good ones to bet on.
Yeah, I like after watching IU last night. I had Indiana at first or Wyoming, whoever's going to win that game. I don't hate St. Mary's. I do think this game is going to be under 100 points total. Maybe not actually under 100, but it's going to be super low scoring. St. Mary's literally slows the pace down more than anybody else in college basketball. Indiana, though, Trace looked pretty decent last night, but other than that, I'm not super high on them. I go 50-50. I'd probably stay with St. Mary's, though.
I think I'm going to roll with – oh, you guys – okay, I think I'm actually going to roll with Indiana because they actually were playing some really good defense. You mentioned Trace Jackson. And they also got Xavier Johnson too. And I think those two together might be too much for St. Mary's. So I'm definitely going to roll with Indiana on that one and just take the spread.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It makes sense. And I think the public will be on Indiana for the most part. The line, they're plus 2.5. It's a really close for 12-5, obviously, but for a good cause. We all know Indiana has been hot, and they almost made a streak to the Big Ten tournament final if it wasn't for Iowa. But all right, we mentioned before, Liv, I know you want. I'm gonna let you take this one to start off. You mentioned Kansas, the Aztecs. Yep. I do have an Aztecs hat on, actually. I do have an Aztecs hat on. So and you know I'm with you, so I definitely want to hear you. I'm not a fan. It's not a personal thing. I just want to. I'll let you go take the stage for that one.
Yeah, defense. That's really what it boils down to for me, honestly. I have San Diego State beating Creighton, and then I've got them actually taking down the Jayhawks and moving on to the Sweet 16. I do have them losing to Iowa in my bracket, but I love San Diego State in this spot versus Kansas. I think that their defense is just going to really slow down the offense from the Jayhawks. And was there a little bit of bias there? Absolutely. But I really do defensively like San Diego State. So I'm going to rock with them to take down the Kansas Jayhawks.
I actually like that pick. San Diego plays really, really good defense. And you know what? Creighton, they played pretty well. I mean, come on. They played well in the Big East tournament. They beat Providence. So Creighton's one of those teams. I feel like they're always kind of a sleeper in the tourney, but I got to roll with San Diego State. And I love Liv's pick for them to beat Kansas because I think Kansas is that one seed that people are doubting right now. So I love that pick. The one upset that I actually have is I know people are rolling with the Hawkeyes because they won the Big Ten, but personally, I hate the Big Ten. And I'm going to be a little bit biased. I'm going to keep it real. Okay. The Big Ten gets way too much love all of the time.
Whoa.
And I'm just saying, I'm keeping it real. It happens in football. It happens in football with rankings. And you know what? They won the Big Ten. They looked really good, but Richmond, Tyler Burton's going to be playing. He's going to be dropping some major trades. And just for the upset, just because it's a good bet, Richmond is a plus 430. I would definitely bet on that game for being an upset.
I have been saying this. I've been saying this is the upset that I don't have the guts to take, but I'm right there on. I'll tell you one thing, 10.5 points, way too much. I'm already full in on that. You want to put 2, 3, 4 units, whatever you sprinkle in there. I'm pretty confident on the Richmond spread at the least. Richmond's the team that I think has the most opportunity to be the Oregon State, like Oregon State of this year. I think they're really, they're experienced. They have really good chemistry. I think that Jacob Gilyard, he leads the country in steals. He's going to terrorize Jordan Bohannon and whoever is playing guard for Iowa, and they're not going to be able to run their normal offense. I am really tempted to go Richmond here. It's been tough. And then to play South Dakota State in the next round, this could be a bracket full of double-digit seeds. I also, like Liv, have San Diego State too, going past Kansas. I have them going to past Iowa too if Iowa gets there as well. I have them going to the Elite Eight to meet Auburn for a chance to go to New Orleans to the Final Four. So I think this bracket, this region, is going to be absolutely insane. And maybe because I think that it'll be all chalk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
You might have just jinxed it, Ryan. No.
I know. Our boy John Rothstein calls it the region of vulnerability, and so he says if you're going to pick a dark horse team like San Diego State to get out, then you could pick it out of this region. I think San Diego State is the 6th favorite. They are tied for the 6th favorite to get out of this region, even though they're the 8th seed. So that's pretty interesting. Good value. I mean, I guess the books are realizing that.
I know a lot of people are taking South Dakota because they won like 21 in a row, like some crazy thing. They're -2 on the spread. They can defend really well. I love Nate Watson, though, out of Providence. He can ball. I think he's going to be way too much for South Dakota, to be honest with you. I think he's going to be unstoppable. And I think he's going to be one of those players in the first round that we're all talking about. So I actually have Providence and Richmond meeting in this one. Like you said, this part of the bracket, anything can happen. And it's wild. So I got Providence and Richmond meeting.
I like that. That's
called
different.
Madness for a reason.
Yeah,
March Madness.
Super. I can imagine that like most of like the dark horse Final Four picks, I'm not trying to offend Liv, is going to be Iowa out of this region because like everyone's like that's a 5 seed. Like I'll have a 1, a 2, and then a 5, and like it's fine. Like, it very well could happen. They are the hottest team in the country, and they've been unbelievable. So it's obviously very well could happen for good reason. But I do like Richmond as well. All right, we'll roll up to the last region we have up here, the South region. I'll let you guys take it away. Anything that you're like super confident in, you're not confident at all, in any big topics from this region?
For me personally, a bet that I really like because I could actually see this team winning outright, and I'm sure a lot of people will disagree, but I love Chattanooga +8 versus Illinois because I really think that they have a shot at actually winning that game outright. So getting them at +8 to me is a total steal, and I love it. So again, defensively from the free throw line, I think when you're taking an underdog to cover the spread, those free throws really, really matter down the, towards that end of the second half. So I really like Chattanooga +8. I do have them winning outright in my bracket, and I don't know if that was just a bold take, but I do think getting them at +8 is awesome. So I really like them. And then I also can't fade Sister Jean. I have Loyola Chicago beating Ohio State as well as beating Villanova, actually. So those are probably my 2 teams that I'm like, excited about. But definitely Chattanooga +8 I really like.
I like that pick. I love it. I have UAB defeating Houston. I think they're a +8.5. UAB has one of the best offenses in the entire country. They're the conference USA champs. Jordan Walker is crazy balling right now. So I have that upset. I know people got Houston going far, but Houston, I'm stuck on their offense. Can they put up the points up against UAB? Because UAB can score the ball. So I actually have them upsetting Houston and heading into that next round. And, I can't, like Liv just said it, I can't go against Sister Jean. I got to roll with Loyola Chicago as well. The one team that I actually have going pretty far is Tennessee, because I think they should actually be ranked higher than a 3 seed.
I have them coming out of the South. They're coming out of the South for me.
Kenny Chandler is like a stud, and I think we're going to be talking about him too, because that's the one thing about March Madness that I love, the players that we get to see ball out. And I think Tennessee was disrespected as a 3 seed. So I definitely think they're going to do some damage in this region as well.
Duke, I think it came down to name brand. Like you look at every resume possible, net ranking, quad wins, everything. Ken Palm, Duke should be a 3 seed. Tennessee should be a 2 seed. And I think that definitely is having a chip on their shoulder, the Volunteers. But it doesn't change the fact that they have a hard way to get out. Colorado State and even Michigan, if Michigan wins the game, puts things together, we know they have talent. It's going to be tough to get out of the first weekend, and then they're going to have to play most likely Villanova if things get chalked up, who obviously is probably the most experienced and well-thought team in the country behind Jay Wright. And then Arizona and the Elite Eight they get there, who they have beaten earlier this year. But I think Arizona is a team who's inexperienced, and they've developed a crazy amount throughout this season. So I think that'd be a completely different matchup. So it does suck that they got screwed, but I think that's going to be another popular pick because they won the SEC tournament just like Iowa. Again, for good cause, and it very, very well could happen.
I feel like it's appropriate to bring up my Horned Frogs since they are in this region. Yeah. I do have them winning their first game. I think it's worth talking about. Do I still think that the Frogs have some developing to do? Yes. I think they're a very well-coached team. I love Jamie Dixon. Mike Miles is when he's hot, he is electric and he is really, really great. They also have like a different level. They level up during halftime. I don't know what kind of Gatorade flavor they're drinking, but something is working for them because they come out in the second half and they're like a completely different team. They're also the healthier team when you're looking at Seton Hall versus TCU. So I do like them to win that first game. And then I do have them losing to Arizona as much as it kills me. I would love to see them. If that's the part of my bracket that's wrong, I don't care. I would love to see them continue to win and play more basketball. But TCU has never really been a basketball school. So I think kind of what you were saying, Ryan, with that inexperience, there's a certain level of intimidation that comes with playing in the tournament. And as you progress, I think the teams with more experience are the teams that are going to do better. But I do have them winning their first game. So I like them to take down Seton Hall. I do have Arizona beating them after that.
That's got to be heartbreaking for you to not even pencil that in. You probably put it in ink, Arizona.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you probably did on the computer. You probably didn't actually write it. Although you are a writer, you do write the notes, right? Because that's like the classic thing is you write.
I do it on the iPad. I write it on the iPad.
So you're still technically writing it, right?
I am, yes.
But you can always erase it. I guess everything on the iPad is pencil. Okay.
All I have to do is double tap the stylus, and then it changes to an eraser.
Ah, damn. Okay. The classic, I remember as a kid especially, I'd print out the bracket always. I'd write the teams in as they come on the selection show. For whatever reason, I did that. And then I'd write a whole bracket in pencil and then be able to erase and cross things out.
Nothing wrong with that.
I just print it out, and then whenever they win, I highlight it. I've been doing that like since I was a kid. I just like highlight my wins and count them up. I think obviously I'm like Pac-12 biased. So I got Arizona heading all the way to the national championship, and they're a plus 600. And that's a bet that I would take. They're long, they're physical, they're playing the best basketball right now to win the Pac-12 championship. They're on a roll right now. It's all about peaking as well when you're in this tournament. And I think Arizona has peaked really well, but I got to give Liv some props. I do have TCU beating Seton Hall as well. Like she mentioned, Mike Miles, they got Eddie Lampkin Jr. This is a good duo. I really, really love this TCU team, but unfortunately they have Arizona after they take care of Seton Hall. So
that's tough.
It's very, very tough. So it's one of those things where I'm like, I think Arizona is just coming out of the South region, period. And I think Tennessee, Liv, did you say you had Tennessee coming out of the South region, or?
I have Tennessee coming out. I have Tennessee beating. Who do I have? Hold on.
Arizona?
I think I have Tennessee beating Arizona and then coming out of the South.
That's a great matchup, Arizona and Tennessee.
They played earlier in the year. It was a really good game. It was one of those I think first 5 or 6 games of the season. Obviously, those are different teams. I think, like I said, Arizona inexperienced, brand new head coach, a lot of sophomores in the roster that didn't really get a lot of PT last year. So it takes time for those things to develop. Whereas Tennessee, I think Kennedy Chandler was supposed to be this freshman one and done guy at the NBA draft. He's kind of come on the scene right away. But both teams have changed over time. We'll see. I have Nova coming out of that region. I said it before. I'm riding the inexperience. I think Tennessee doesn't bruise in the paint amazingly, and that's Villanova's big weakness. And I'll take the experience. I think they match up well against Tennessee. And then at the Elite Eight, Arizona the 1, and then Villanova the 2. I just go experience over inexperience. I keep saying it, but I think it bodes well. And I don't think a first-time head coach has gotten to the Final Four since 1990 or 89, and I don't know if one has ever won a national championship. So that also makes me fade Arizona a little more. So
I like that. You know what, with the Villanova and Tennessee matchup, those two teams will play really well against each other. It's a really good matchup because if you think about it, I think Tennessee had the 4th or 5th strength of schedule. So they're Villanova 6th, Tennessee is 4th or 5th, and Tennessee can put up points and they're good defensively, and they kind of mirror Villanova actually. So if it is going to come down to experience, then probably Villanova has that nod, but Tennessee got a lot of, veteran guys on their squad. So it could go either way for me. That's one of those games where it's 50-50.
Yeah, it's fair. All right, I pulled up the odds for national champion because you guys, Shantelle, you mentioned Arizona, and we were going through some of the teams. If you had to, for value only, not who you think is going to win, value only, is there anyone on here that you look at and you're like, wow, you know what? I think it's worth a flyer at that, or even if it's Final Four. I can pull up Final Four also. But is there anyone you see you're like, wow, that's actually worth a flyer bet to win the entire tournament? I'll start, actually. I'll let you guys look at it because I think I have a couple. I think UCLA, I think we talked about the experience they had from last year. It's the same exact team. They just added guys. Jaime Hawkins has been awesome. If Johnny Juzang can really level up, they're going to be very, very dangerous. I do fear when they have to play against a really good center, although I don't see that as a problem until maybe the Elite Eight if Kentucky gets there also. But at plus 3,500 behind teams like Iowa and Texas Tech, I think I'd rather take UCLA. UCLA Baylor game scares me in the Sweet 16, but I very well think that UCLA will go in as the underdog and they have nothing to lose. And if they win that game, then I'll be convinced that they can win the national title. So that one, and then Illinois. Illinois might lose the first round. I have Chattanooga in half my brackets, but I think Illinois could also win the national title. And at 50-1, I think it's worth a flyer bet. They're really balanced. They have Kofi Coburn, who I don't know if he can be stopped by anybody, but he can be contained only by a couple of players in the entire country. So those would be my two flyers.
I like those. I have three, and I'll explain each one. Storyline purposes, Duke at plus 1,700. I think just, they lost that last game against the Tar Heels. There's so many different things that could really make that a cool story. Now, again, is that how you should pick your bets? No, not even close. But I do think that would be a really cool, it would be cool. You talked about experience. I think Baylor at plus 1,200. I don't have them in the championship game, but I do think experience wise, that could be a good bet. And then because I do have Gonzaga beating Tennessee, getting Tennessee at plus 2,500, upsetting Gonzaga could be really cool. So those are my three value bets, I guess.
I think I got to roll with UCLA at plus 3,500. I think that one is one of the best bets to take because they do have a Johnny Juzang. They were there last year knocking on the door. So I really like this UCLA team, and I have them going to the national championship game, to be honest with you, against Arizona. I have a full Pac-12 matchup. Now, I don't know if I'm being, I got a full Pac-12 matchup. I don't know if I'm being too biased with this one, but I think that's a good matchup. So I definitely got them. Also, it's hard to not pick Baylor at plus 1,200 because they've been good all year round. They've been one of the best teams in the nation. But that JTT injury, that's the only thing that's making me be like, do I want to pick Baylor with that one? And also, you mentioned Villanova. I think Villanova could also kind of be one of those sleeper squads. They're a plus 2,000. It's one of those things where if they get past Tennessee, and I think they're going to be a scary team to beat. Yeah, so I would say those three.
Yeah, and then while you're at it, you might as well throw in plus Murray State at plus 50,000 because why not? You might as well put $1 on that to win whatever. Was that 500, right? Something like that? 5,000? 500. We'll take it. Yeah. I'll definitely be putting a $5 wager on Murray State to win the whole thing. It's like a Shabazz Napier UConn 7 seed from a few years ago type run they'll have with Kevin Brown. But who knows? Now I'll take it to the Final Four, I guess, because the Final Four is different. I think you can bet differently because Murray State is actually a sufficeable bet as to win the national championship is probably not the best thing to do. But is there anyone you guys here on value, maybe outside of the top teams that we were talking in terms of value? And I can scroll way down because you never know what kind of seed can make it to the Final Four. And Gonzaga is actually the only team that's minus. They're favored. They're minus 150 to get to the Final Four.
Okay. I'm looking at mine right now. I would say for me, especially for my bracket, I'm trying to look and see where the value is for them. Virginia Tech at plus 2,500 because I actually do have them battling it out versus Baylor. So in a really crazy story, if they upset Baylor, plus 2,500 is just great value. And then the only other one I could think is, what is the value for Duke? Because I do have them in the Final Four, but if
plus 440
for whatever reason Texas Tech were to upset Duke, I mean, I don't know what they're so not as great. I would say Virginia Tech then for me as the best value if they were to upset Baylor. Fair enough. My bracket.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be a little bit crazy with this one because we're just talking about a value pick, and this is the one where when you're looking at the bracket and you're like, you know what, I'm just going to make this bet. Because if it hits, it would be crazy. So a lot of people, that UNC Marquette matchup, I know UNC, they kind of fell short there, but Marquette, Chaka Smart, Justin Lewis, this is a team where I think if they can get on a run, and Marquette's a basketball school, this is a team, they're plus 5,000. But I mean, they have a tough road, but that's just a crazy bet that I would make just to be like, you know what, if I'm looking at the odds, they're plus 5,000. They're a really good team. They're really well coached. And I think they are going to take down UNC. It's like I mentioned, it's all about a run, but they're in a really, really tough bracket. I mean, they would play Baylor next and then UCLA. Oof. But I think Marquette could be one of those sleeper squads because I think they went 6-6 against the top 25. They drop about like 75 points a game. I really like this squad. And I think if they get past UNC, and I have them getting past UNC in my bracket, I think they could be one of those scary teams that a team like Baylor, who's dealing with an injury with JTT, doesn't want to see.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And most people will go off UNC, even if they don't know who the players are, off of purely name brand. And I think the most popular, like 8-1, is North Carolina over Baylor. But I think Marquette, it's a great point. Like Baylor won the national championship last year with a guy like Davion Mitchell. They have Darryl Morcell and Marquette, the Maryland transfer. Like that's a guy that gets you wins. Obviously, Justin Lewis is awesome. One that I like is San Diego State. We talked about them earlier. The defense.
I was just going to say that. I love that.
But almost 2,500 is like, I don't know. It's almost like, is that enough for the value? But I'll stick with it anyway because I do think that the chances are better than that. It's interesting that they have Providence as a 4 seed at plus 3,900. I don't think there's a single shot they get to the Final Four. But like at plus 3,900, is it worth a flyer bet? It might be. I wouldn't do it. But my last one is Colorado State because they're a 6 seed. Another one that just like they're not getting the value on their seeding. Yes, they have a really, really rough path. We just talked about like Marquette, like Shantelle said. But they play Michigan and then Tennessee. If they get past that, David Roddy and the team has been good all year. They only have 5 losses on the entire season. They have been good at plus 5,500. I think it's worth a flyer bet. And if you put 1, 2, or 3 of these things down and you win one of them, instant profit on that value. I think these are some great picks.
Value wise, you can't pass it up. Yeah, I love San Diego State. I was going to say that before. I was thinking about it as you said it. For me in my bracket, the way that I've got them, advancing and whatnot, they would just need to defeat Iowa and then defeat Auburn. And I think crazier things have happened before. And when you're that strong defensively, never say never. So I think San Diego State's another great one. I
think if they hold Creighton tomorrow night, I think they play tomorrow night to under 55 points, I'll be fine. I'll be convinced. I'll be like, great. We're going to the Kansas game. This is gonna be great. And if they beat Kansas, they're going to the Final Four. I'll be honest. I'll say it right now. If San Diego State does beat Kansas and we are right, Liv, they are going to the Final Four. And I'm going to be mad that I didn't put them even further in my bracket, but it's okay. I'll live with it.
Hey, well, that's why we're going to sprinkle on them to make the Final Four because the value is great.
Exactly. So, this is where we do it. But like in some groups, I'll definitely take the public bracket I put out is definitely not the same as the one I put in like paid groups because if I'm trying to win money and beat out 50, 100, 200 other people, you need to get crazy. You need to have an 8 or 7 or an 11 in the Final Four, and you just got to get it right. And then there you go. So.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right. We'll do one last one. We'll pull the Elite 8. You can't see all the odds in here, but you can pull up any team you want based on value to make the Elite 8 because, like we said, the Final Four, you can start picking at like 6, 7, 8 seeds. But the Elite 8, you might be able to start picking at teams that are 10, 11, 12 seeds. And also teams like maybe Auburn is one that I pulled up that I think is actually a good one at basically even odds, or Providence that you don't think can go to the Final Four, but you think the value is there for the Elite 8. Is anyone you guys want to pull up here?
I would roll with Murray State.
I was just going to say Murray State.
They're plus 1,500. I think that's the one that I would definitely take because, we talked about it already. The way that they're playing offensively right now, they're unreal. They're coming into this tournament they're peaking at the perfect time. And they're going to be my Cinderella team this year. So I got Murray State. I would take that just for the odds in that one.
Yeah. And like, if you don't want to go Final Four at plus 5,000, 1,500 is still juicy enough to like, that's a flyer bet. It's exactly what it is. I love it.
For sure. I think Loyola Chicago is one for me as well that could potentially have some value. Plus 730.
730.
It's not that
right.
Cool.
It's not as good as you'd think, right? Maybe because
I would think it'd be better. What about Houston?
That's because the Sister Jean. You kidding me? We thought of this.
I know you can't fade Sister Jean.
330. You see, that's tough because to get out of the first couple games is going to be very, very tough. And then to beat Arizona, I think it's.
What about Vermont? Vermont's another one of my little sleepers.
I don't know.
They're not even on there.
Am I blind? No, they know. They know. They know.
That's so hateful. Where are Vermont's odds? That's so hateful.
Where's New Mexico State? It's probably the same exact thing or close to it at least. 30. Let's call it 3,900.
Woof.
That's a lot. That is a lot. I think Richmond is one to look at there too. We talked about Richmond. I think if they beat Iowa, I'll be heavily convinced that they can keep rolling through no matter who they're playing. 1,400 actually isn't amazing for a 12 seed, but they've been playing really well. We mentioned San Diego State before. Plus 750 also isn't great. I'd rather take the Final Four bet. And then the other one, I brought up Auburn because I think Auburn's path could be just like Houston's last year when they played all double-digit seeds. Auburn's path will be Jacksonville State. Hope they can win that game. And then they'll have USC or Miami. Again, I think they can get past there. I think Wisconsin is going to be dangerous to go out against Colgate first round, and then maybe even LSU and Iowa State, really good defenses in the second round. And if that happens, like Houston last year, it opens up a really, really easy path for Auburn to get to the Elite Eight, and they might lose at the Elite Eight. But those odds at even odds, maybe not juicy enough for some people, but I think it's a very logical bet, and it's not really like this flyer bet. It's one that actually makes sense. So that's one that I'll definitely be taking on there.
I like it.
I like that.
I love value plays.
That's right. That's all we're looking for is the value. What makes sense in the brackets, right?
Exactly.
But realistically, everything is probably going to go wrong, I'd imagine.
Right. That's why it's called March Madness, y'all. It's just you can't get your hopes up.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all about busted. Like, I hope my bracket's not busted after that day one. That's always the worst. Like after like those morning games when your bracket's already busted. So.
Yeah. Are there any other players we mentioned like Kennedy Chandler, David Roddy, guys like that? Like, I'll pull up the score. Let's do the score 20 maybe in their first game because I feel like that's an interesting market we have here. Any game you want to go to and any certain players you're like, I think they're going to go off in their first game.
Mike Miles, TCU. I definitely think he's going to go off. Tyson Walker for Michigan State isn't playing. So that's against Davidson. I think that's a good one too. But if he was playing, I would have said that he would have got off. JD Note from Arkansas.
20, 20 seems like a plus 150 seems pretty generous. He scores like 18 or 19 a game already. But I guess, I mean, why not? I like it. Yeah. I feel like a lot of the guys who always pop off, and they might even lose. Like if you remember the two brothers who were in Oklahoma, the Groves brothers, Tanner Groves, they were on, who was it last year? I forget who it was, Eastern Washington in the tournament. And they went off. One of them scored 30 in the tournament, but they lost because in these tournament games, when your team is down and you're an underdog, you kind of just start going and chucking up as much as you can because you have no choice almost. You kind of just got to do what you have to carry the team, even in a losing effort. So I think looking at guys like Teddy Allen is actually even because he is literally a bucket, like he said about himself in an interview. But minus 102, like I love that. I think he's definitely scoring 20 against UConn, even against a good defense. And they might lose, but I think Teddy Allen's definitely scoring 20.
I can see that. What are the odds for RJ Cole for UConn?
RJ is plus 290.
That's one that I would take because he's going to be really good on the perimeter. So that's definitely one that I would take. RJ Cole from UConn because I actually think UConn is going to cause some problems. They're tough. They're in tough because they're going to be meeting Gonzaga, but they're one of those teams where I think if they get on a roll, RJ Cole plays well, they could be a little bit scary. So I would take that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. It might be a slightly low. I feel like UConn always controls the pace of the game pretty well, where it might be kind of low scoring. But I guess we'll see. Keegan Murray's at minus 360 for Iowa. That's actually hilarious because he averages 24 a game against Big Ten opponents.
Walking bucket, basically.
Literally a walking bucket. Chantel's not going to doubt the Big Ten right now. Keegan Murray's good. We're not doing anything else. Oh, you did mention Tyler Burton. You mentioned Tyler Burton earlier. 255. Like that's pretty good value.
He's going to be dropping trays everywhere. We can't forget about Murray State. I mentioned Tevin Brown earlier. Tevin Brown is going to ball out. What are the odds? He has to be on there. I think he's going to have a huge game.
I can't find. Oh, you know what? They do play tomorrow though. I don't know. I can't find. We could do to score plus 30. Maybe he'll be on here. But that's a good one. I feel like KJ Williams is so good though that it's gonna limit his opportunities. They don't have a ton. The more points you go, the less players you have the option to bet on. But I'd imagine Tevin Brown is definitely a value bet at plus 4 or 500 because he scores 16 a game, but he also runs their offense, and KJ Williams is their leading scorer. So that'd be tough. But I do like that a lot.
Yeah.
I'm looking at to score 30. I mean, you might as well go on Keegan Murray at that point, right? Because the guy literally has been scoring 30 a game for half a time. Brady Manick is an interesting one. Maybe 30 is too much for North Carolina, but he is so hot and cold. When he plays well, they win. So I feel like maybe they'll game plan him up a little more. But plus 1,400 to score 30. 30 is that's a lot of points. I don't know about all that.
That would be talked about. Like if he drops 30, that would be like extremely impressive. I'm trying to think back to March Madness when someone had a 30-point performance like that. Like, what Jalen Suggs had a crazy performance last year.
Yeah, I don't know if he scored 30. He probably didn't. He probably had like 20, 25, like a 25 range. But like that's what I'm saying. 30 is not something you see. The Tanner Groves is a great example, and they actually look the same. Brady Manick and Tanner Groves. They wear the headband. They look like mountain men, like lumberjacks, basically. And they just like don't look like they should be there, but they just, like we said, they're walking buckets. That's what they do. And then I guess the other one I like is David Roddy. You mentioned him before. Like he's going to carry Colorado State if they're going to win, and that's a game where if they're chasing or he just gets the hot hand like he does many of times, he could just start bullying people and not stop shooting the whole entire game. Plus 550 to score 30. Maybe it's not juicy enough for the odds, but I don't hate that. I don't hate it at all.
Yeah, I also might take like Boogie Ellis from USC to drop maybe 20 points as well. I think he averages about 13, but I actually think this game with USC and Miami is going to be extremely close. And I think their stars got to come out and play. So I think Boogie Ellis might have a good game in that one. And of course, Isaiah Mobley as well.
I feel like everyone's on Miami for that game. I don't know why. I feel like everyone's taking Miami. I know you're on USC, Pac-12, but I'm on USC.
I didn't even realize how biased I was being in my back bracket, but now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, damn.
They very well. I mean, they made a run last year. They're the 6th seed. They went to the Elite Eight. They still have some of that experience. The biggest one is Isaiah Mobley, obviously, but they could very well make a run. They still have Andy Enfield. Andy Enfield, their coach. I don't know if people know this. He was their coach. If you guys remember the Florida Gulf Coast run, the Dunk City, he was the Florida Gulf Coast coach. After that run, gets the USC job. They were terrible. Flips him upside down and brings him to the Elite Eight last year with Evan Mobley. And I guess he's trying to do the same with Isaiah Mobley. I don't hate that value. Like we talk about experience, which Auburn doesn't have much of on their roster. I wouldn't hate that going through, but it'll be a tough road for them for sure. But all right, before we slide, are there any last hot takes on the entire bracket? Any bold predictions? Anything you want to tell the people now before we go to make sure that it was known that you said it and it's going to happen?
Colgate's beating Wisconsin. There's my hot take.
I like that.
All right. I got UAB defeating Houston. UAB's got one of the best offenses in the country, Conference USA champs, and I got to roll with Jordan Walker. So that's my upset because I know a lot of people got Houston going pretty far in their brackets.
I like that one. Yeah, Jelly Walker is different. He's one of those guys, actually, I feel like we talked before, who could be a March Madness guy because like not a lot of people know about him. They're starting to learn about him now as they fill out their brackets and study the teams. But he's like a 5'11" guard. If he's definitely not 6 foot, in my opinion, at least. I don't think he is. It's not really an opinion. Like he's either 6 foot, he's not. But I just don't think he is. But he can score the hell out of the ball. And if he scores like 30 and they beat Houston, people are going to be going off about him all over. Just like you talked about, Shantelle, but like guys that just come out of nowhere. And Jelly Walker is a guy who can definitely do that. My big one, I'd say, we talked about Murray State already. My big one is that everyone loves Michigan State because they're Michigan State, and Duke because they're Duke. Davidson is the team to get to the Sweet 16 out of that after the first weekend. I have Davidson. They're playing 100 miles from where Davidson's campus is. It's half the distance from Duke's even, and it's really, really close. So it's only like an hour and a half away. It's basically a home game. Their offense is awesome. Their experience, good chemistry. I am riding with Davidson to the Sweet 16.
Love it.
Yeah. All right.
Madness.
Welcome to March Madness,
know,
where anything can happen.
You got any special plans for tomorrow at 12:15 during the games?
Sweat and stress. That's about it.
Sounds about right. I'm gonna try to get as many screens. There's only 4 games can happen at once. Can be going on. I'm gonna try to have 2 or 3 screens. I feel like is logical because you can go back and forth on 1 or 2 of them. So I don't want to overdo it and move all the wiring around in my home. So
I'm gonna try to do the 3 screens just because I got to know what's going on for these bets. I got to know.
That's fair. I feel like 3, right? And you want to watch the early half of the game because you need to know who's playing well, who's hot, who's not, and what to worry about, what not to early on. So it's a good point. But best of luck to you guys in your brackets and the whole entire tournament. But I feel like the first weekend is everything because everyone gets a Final Four or Elite Eight team out in the first weekend. But I hope you guys don't experience that. I know I will be experiencing that probably tomorrow when one of my teams loses on the first day. But all power to you guys. I hope you guys have the best weekend. My favorite time of the year. And yeah, good luck in all your picks.
Thanks. You too, Ryan.
Good luck, guys. Should be fun.
Yeah. See ya.